Please remember this shit is all made up. Please remember that. So these are just some ideas of what to do.
Yes.
The basic idea is it's dissociate here, resource, 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 integrate, and then that thing will just take care of itself, typically. Yeah? But just adding flourishes to this meta pattern, as we'll continue to do, right? Now, one of the things that I really want you to begin to play with, I keep showing it to you. I want to make it a little bit more, obvious and explicit. So I've already kind of have been hitting this pretty hard because I feel like step one is the most vital piece where when things go wrong, that's where they go wrong, right? When students are learning this and people are learning this, or a piece of change work doesn't go as planned, it's because step one, almost always, seriously. So that's why you've seen me constantly lean in and do this, and I keep making it very, very obvious, and then I bring in this to slow it down. I want you to really think about all this space, right? This is where we put stuff. This is where we sort for things. Your clients are going to show it to you. They're going to show it to you. They're going to show you, how they have this thing set up. You just have to look for it. So I really want you to begin to notice more the subtle gestures, where they're looking, how they're accessing. All of these are indications of their internal strategies. Yeah? So some of the other things that I do, I already shared with you. I'm very quick to dismiss, and with a flick of the, right? You'll see me do that quite often. You'll see me when they start to talk about a problem, I'll even subtly, as I'm finding a solution, I'm moving it away. These are all different ways to make this, this communication more powerful. Because we are communicating millions of bits of information between us. You want to start to be more aware of what you're communicating. And that means being absolutely congruent. Too often, I'm seeing, the change work where, people are like this, asking questions. They're just like, they're so outside of this loop that, occasionally you're going to get a client where they're just not comfortable being that intense in that loop. So you're going to respect the space, but let the client dictate that. Because there's nothing worse than someone who's trying to share something or wanting help from someone whose every aspect of their being is literally removed, right? We heard about the psychotherapist who just sat back, flat-faced, not saying anything, right? That's not it. You want to be engaged, right? Engaged. And if I suggest that you notice the most subtle hitches in breath, where are they breathing from? If you can see any muscle tension in their face, in their neck, in their shoulders, what are you seeing? Then this at least gets you in. It gets you paying attention. It gets you in the game, right? Now the intention of being able to be congruent here is that, as I shared with you in the pre-conference, as soon as somebody tells me what they want, I imagine seeing them having it. I imagine them happy, so that everything that I am doing is congruent with that. And I know I've said it before, but I really want to drive it home. How you think or feel about any individual is really going to come across. It's going to invite that aspect of them to show up, right? Because we are constantly sharing information. And most of it is outside of conscious awareness. So stack the deck, be engaged, notice what you can notice. Any questions? No. Okay. Well, fine. God. And for those of you that did not hear that, I said any questions and somebody screamed, no, in the hallway. Fucking perfect.
It's like the lights going out.
I thought it was Ari. I was like, wow, okay.
No, it was outside.
Do you have questions? No.
No! Oh my God. So we have step one where I'm going in, right? Where I'm going in. The thing that I do quite often that you might not notice because I haven't been as explicit with this one is when I say, how do you want to feel instead, I open up the space. So another way that I kind of think of this space is, we can go really detailed, deductive, we can go inductive, right? So out here, like I said, if you clearly delineate or put a boundary around the problem, then what are the odds that you can lead consciousness to anywhere that it isn't? And those odds are pretty freaking good. So when I want to open up the field to look for resources, right, then my hands are going to support that. My gestures are going to support that. But the thing that I really want to get to you guys is I want you to start to do this because there is some interesting research that indicates if you learn something and there are physical gestures that go with it, you will remember it. So I had suggested you guys look up a book called The Extended Mind. And I'm really, I'm listening. I listened to it. It was really good. And it talks about some of this research. So these are my gestures, and I'm happy for you to take them on. But if there's something else that feels better for you when you say, how do you want to feel instead, that, does kind of the same thing, then go with that too. You before were like, there was a very nice, when was the last time specifically, it was like a heart down to a fine point. Feel free to go with that one, man. That works too, right? Because you're doing something that came kind of naturally, your whole body did it. So you can use mine if it feels right. If there's a variation, use that. But by linking the gestures to these steps of the meta pattern, you're going to remember it more easily, right? When was the last time? Specifically, you're getting in, now we're getting a little closer. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? And if you notice, I'm going, what are you seeing? What are you hearing? I'm literally gesturing where their eyes would go, visual or auditory, right? It's just a little subtle thing. I really like it. I like watching you. I know, it's great. It's great. I get to see what it was like, for you. Except you always have more of a flair. I don't know what it is, but. So, right? So we've got step one, yeah? And then I'll just say shake, right? So this is, shake it off, sit up. That's just what naturally comes with the break state, right? And then how do you want to feel instead? While that's still associated with step two, the dissociation, we're getting them into step three. So how do you want to feel instead opens up the field. Because remember that most clients will open up the field unintentionally when they're talking about the problem. We narrow the field. Right? So I say, when was the last time? Specifically, your average client is going to say, well, it happens all the time. So they've already done that. Now, by bringing it back down, deductive, right? And by then, once you've nailed it and you've shaken it off, now it's safe. to open up the field again because we're looking for resources. So it's a very different search that you're expecting them to go on. Rather than searching for all the fucking places where this problem shows up, now you're opening up the field to search for resources. Yeah? So that, got it? Making sense? All right. So once we do that, and they're starting to say, you know, well, I want to feel this or I want to feel this, right? So now what would be a good gesture for you to indicate step 3, which is to embody it? So for me, I always say, right? So how do you know you're feeling? And depending on what they want, so these gestures can be different, right? The body states. If they say they want calm, obviously, I'm saying, and how do you know when you're calm? And all I have to do is drop a little bit into calm. But I try not to necessarily gesture until I see theirs. But I will say, you know, how do you know you're feeling this, right? You're feeling this, and what is it like? Where do you feel it in your body? So that, to me, is body. What is with me in these gestures? Right? So where is it in your body? It's that, because I'm pointing to your body. Right? And then depending on what they do, you're just going to strengthen their own gestures from now on. As soon as they give you the gesture for their resource, if they say, well, I kind of feel this, right? What is it you did? You were like, there's a little flow, right? So once you have that, you can now hold on to it. You can reflect it back. You become the cheerleader for their resource state, right? And then in my mind, and what I'm doing is this, right? So as you're feeling this feeling, now see that. And this way, in my mind, I know now is the time for the paste. Copy. As you're feeling this feeling, now see that thing. Now see that thing, or now see your boss's face, you know? But in my mind, it's that gesture. So I just wanted to share that with you because, you know, that research is fairly new. And it'll help you to remember it more easily. Yes?
You kind of make us smack. I've noticed that almost every time. Is that like...
Do I? Kind of goes with that.
You're bringing it here. You go, well, only because sometimes a noise, as well as the gesture, can anchor it even
Yes,
better.
you know,
Just add
quite
to
often I'm doing that in... It depends, right? I wasn't aware that I do that all the time. I know I do it sometimes, and I certainly do it when I'm teaching it. So I'll say, you take the thing and you hit it because I'm teaching you. But when I'm actually working with someone, right, I'm like, now see the text. I'm not going, now see the text,
Okay.
right? Or I'm not saying, now imagine you're going on that presentation. I do that to teach it. I want the copy and the fucking paste to get embedded. So I'm using it as a teaching tool, but I don't use... Not necessarily. I mean, unless it's like, and my boss's face, yeah, now see your boss's face. No, I don't really do that. You scared me for a moment. I'm like, fuck, I do that? Even with the text? That didn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. But I definitely do that as a teaching tool. All right? Because sometimes we get a little lost, right? Because people want to talk. They want to tell their story. They want to spread this thing out. And unfortunately, when they spread this thing out, you've got a scalpel, right? You need to bring it back in. You want to keep it as simple as possible. And that is why I keep saying it's a copy and a paste, copy and a paste. We're getting very specific and strategic here. Yeah? All right. So another piece that I want to add in, right, is I've already said about the internal dialogue attached to the anxiety or the problem, right? There's a lot of things you can do with that, as well as the belief. So this is where, when the problem is accessed, when you hit the trigger and they're feeling this feeling, you say, what are you saying to yourself? And that will be the internal dialogue that is attached to this problem, to this anxiety. And sometimes a lot of times it's startling to the client because they didn't realize they were saying this shit to themselves. right? And then I'd like to just share a fun little thing that you can do with that. But also, a la Byron Katie, as soon as they give you the belief, then once you do the change and you're doing the copy and paste and you're gathering resources, right? You can then say, and now what are you saying to yourself? Or now what do you believe, right? So I think I said something like, and what are you saying to yourself? Or what are you, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. But you said strength.
Yes.
And I think it was, what do you know? What do you know to be true? Maybe I said that. I don't know. It's not like it was so fucking long ago, was it? Anyway, so we're going to get together, right? Again, this is just going to get you good, people. Oh, maybe I should demo. Yes?
Just a very quick question. When the shape, and you're asking them, what's the shape like now? And it's still there, and maybe it's less intense, maybe it's smaller, maybe they're less bothered about it, but it's still there.
Uh-huh.
There's almost a sense of disappointment in that, oh, I would have thought to fix it, it needs to have gone.
No. Remember I said, so when you say, notice what has happened to that, you're loading up the, precepts of change.
Yes.
Then if it's less intense or it's changed a little bit, you can say, and now that you're feeling resourceful, looking at that over there, where in the world would it be useful? Remember, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
And then you help them to find that. So it's not a disappointment. It's just that a lot of people will say it's not there. But if it's transformed into something, that just gives you another piece, another bit of something to play with. Right? Okay.